Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
Collect all the successories you can on the way to the top. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 things that you just need to remember when you want to stay motivated. Now, I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect. You know, there are days that you might come across as a coach or consultant that just feel like nothing seems to be working. You know, I've had days like that. You know, when you're just feeling maybe burnout, or maybe you're trying to reach out to your clients, and maybe you think of, wait a minute, maybe I could just cold call some people just to get work, and you know, you have them hanging up in your face, and you know, you probably decide, okay, let me go the non-confrontational route and maybe send out a few emails of my new launch or my new product, and then all you get is crickets, and not even as much as anyone sending out or responding back and saying, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. I was anticipating this information. And you might think, okay, so if I want to be competitive and maybe get clients, I should just maybe put out ads on Facebook, on Spotify, on LinkedIn, and you end up wasting thousands of dollars on ad spend without even getting as much as a qualified lead or somebody who actually picks up the phone and remembers that they clicked on your ad. And I know we're going through stuff like this, and it's very difficult, especially when it starts feeling like nobody wants to buy what it is that you're selling. And when you actually are relying on your business to put food on the table, man, I know, I've been there. It actually puts an enormous strain on your emotions, and you know, your posture actually starts showing, and people even on the road will just be honking at you while you're walking because you just can't get yourself motivated, and you can't really do well if you're not feeling well. Now, I want you to remember one thing. Whenever you want to stay motivated, just remember the time you did your absolute best. Remember the time you did your very best work. And I kid you not, you, my friend, will actually lift yourself up, because that lifts up your self-esteem. Now, I understand we all suffer from self-doubt or imposter syndrome, where we actually feel like we are not worthy of the work that we're putting out there, or we're not worthy of, the amount of money that we are commanding from our coaching, our consulting, our training, our information, or even the expertise we're putting out there. And, half of the time it just, it puts a downer on who you are. And I don't want this podcast to be a downer. I understand, yes, we do have good days and not so good days. We gotta talk about everything else that affects us, on our journey to have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And if anybody tells you that everything is going to be all rosy, that person is taking you for a ride, And I understand, some days we actually think we can conquer the universe, we can conquer the world. And then there's also days that we feel like we're not even worthy to get paid for the work that we do. Now, I want you to understand that this is the roller coaster of running a business for yourself. This is the roller coaster that you will go through, especially if your role and your job is to serve other people. Because as coaches and consultants, we're taking on other people's health issues. We're taking on other people's wealth issues. We're taking on other people's relationship issues. We're taking on other people's business issues, and we're never probably taking time to really, really look after ourselves and make sure that we're safeguarding ourselves from, all these lulls that other people are experiencing, and we start taking them on as if they are our own. All right. I'm just going to say this with utmost love and respect. I am hopeful, and I really hope that you will actually start separating what is your problem and what is other people's problems. I heard somewhere when I was talking to a hairdresser, apparently hairdressers actually wash their hands as a ritual every single day when they finish work. You know why? Because everybody's talking about their marital problems. Everybody's talking about their financial problems. People are talking about wanting to divorce their husband, and they're taking on all these conversations, just to pass on time while they're doing somebody else's hair. And half of the time, your brain doesn't know whether it's your problem or it's somebody else's problem. And it starts working towards trying to fix a divorce that you never had to start off with. All right. So there's certain things that you got to do, especially as a coach or consultant, to really stay motivated and to keep on top of understanding and separating yourself from the problems that you are helping other people, navigate or go through. I've actually heard that a lot of doctors end up having the same problem that they help their clients to get over. Cancer doctors usually end up having cancer themselves. So you as a coach or consultant, you really need to create a moat that separates. I'm not saying you have to have a work-life balance, but you need to get your brain to understand that these problems that you're facing are not your problems. They are your clients' problems, and you shouldn't bring them home, or you shouldn't bring your work back home. All right. So, whenever you have an occasional down day, I want you to stop and realize, wait a minute, the thing that's putting you down, is it your problem or is it your customers' problems? And that's usually the first thing that you need to understand. And when you can separate yourself from other people's problems, you, my friend, will actually experience the joys of creating a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Okay. Because once we start, being involved with our clients, we really want to solve their problems. We really want to help them make sense of the world around them. And we then tend to forget that these problems are not our own. So whenever you feel down, there's a few things that you can help to snap yourself out of it. And I do that sometimes myself. Whenever you have like an occasional lull day, here's something I literally do to snap myself out of it. Okay. You know what I do? I actually think back to some of the work that I did that was really, really good. And usually on days when I don't feel well, it's the days where I actually start to write my own case studies. Because you know what? With a case study, you are writing success. You're writing the best work out there. You're writing what you did well. You're writing what you know how to do best. And guess what that does internally? It starts working with the chemicals in your brain, reminding you of how absolutely amazing you are at the work that you do. So I just think back at the work that I did that was really good, or I sit down with my operations manager and we start going through, our clients' work, and then see who we're doing well for. And we actually then maybe go on a call with the client and then maybe do a survey for them, just so that we can solicit a review or we can solicit a case study off of them. And once you do that, you automatically put yourself in a position where it's like, wow, we are actually doing great work out there. So your goal and your role as a coach or consultant is to just do work that matters for people who care. And if you put yourself in that position, you, my friend, will be celebrating with us or with whoever you're working with towards creating a business that's profitable and enjoyable. So just think back to some of the work that you did really well. Think back to an award that you won or anything that was really good and positive within your business, and you will realize that immediately you'll snap out of it. You know what I do? I maybe go on a podcast like this and start ranting, because when I woke up in the morning, I had a client that was just, I don't know how we got that client. And at the end of the day, they were just complaining about just about everything else. And then I started going back in their reports and I noticed, wait a minute, this is one client we've actually gotten the most results for in their SEO. And I'm wondering, why are they complaining? Why are they creating such a big stink, about the service and the results that we're working with? And then I realized that, okay, we're going through a recession. Maybe they are actually looking for an excuse or a way to actually cancel off their contract with us just so that they don't keep paying. So I picked up the phone and I rang them up, and voila, I was correct. They're just going through stuff and they don't know how they're going to be paying our invoice. So they just wanted to pick a fight. And if we would have said the wrong thing, guess what would have happened? We would have actually lost that contract. But I just spoke to them nicely and I said, I understand what's going on in the marketplace, but guess what? Whenever a recession or a market downturn shows up, usually the first thing that people do is remove marketing, okay? And you want to be within your industry the person that's actually doing the most of the marketing, because when everybody else is retreating, you really want to be advancing. So look at how I actually turned this whole situation around. Somebody would have just gone in and be like, oh my god, this client is giving me stress, and then would have left it at that and would have actually spoiled their whole day. Well, I got content out of it, and I just thought to myself, wait a minute, how many people have this, psychological trigger inside of their head to actually tell them, wait a minute, this is not my problem. This is not my issue. This is the issue of the client, and I shouldn't be fighting their own battles. So whenever you're feeling down or things of that nature, you really need to find something that can snap you, pretty much out of it. So like I said, I think and look back at what we did that was really good. In the case of this client, I went on and looked at their reports and I noticed, wait a minute, we've been working our behinds off to make sure that this client gets the right results, all right? We actually performed incredibly well. And, I was actually particularly proud of what we'd created for them, because we created, we had helped them really identify their target market. We'd clarified their message, and now they had funnels that were going gangbusters, and they just wanted to find a loophole or some sort of a pick a fight, you know what I mean, so that they can just ease their way out of an arrangement that we have. And I'm not saying that we hold people hostage or things of that nature. I just want you to understand that half of the times you might actually be fighting battles that are not your own. So I looked back at the work that we did, and it was absolutely amazing. We had actually performed really well, and I was particularly proud of my team. I was particularly proud of our processes and systems and what we had actually done for this client. And I started writing a case study. You know what I mean? Me and my operations manager, we started putting together a case study for them. And we asked the client to read the case study. And they were like, oh my God, this is actually correct. Now, what have we done? We've actually increased the loyalty of this customer. We've actually increased, our own reputation, and we have energized the relationship that we now have with this client. Only simply because I didn't succumb to the thought of, oh my God, I think this client is unhappy with our work, etc., okay? You know what I mean? You know what I did to myself? I actually gave proof to my team, proof to myself, proof to that client that we can create good work. So I now can stand in front of you on this podcast, snitch on this client, which is what I do in every one of my episodes. And if you're just joining us, why don't you subscribe to the Online Prosperity Experience? Because we sit around here and snitch on people just so that we create content, okay? And look at what happened. I've just realized that we're doing good work. So sometimes we are going through stuff, and half of the battles that we're fighting are not our battles. Sometimes I'll just think back to moments when I'd actually done really good work, or when we'd created or completed a project. And sometimes I just look at a sample or maybe stuff that we're just putting out, for our clients. And then I realize, wait a minute, we are actually doing the most. We're going above and beyond, our client expectations. And we should be actually creating a lot more case studies around the work that we're doing. All right. So the trick here is just to remind yourself of what you did and then reaffirm your ability to do good work. because half of the time these people will take advantage as long as you can't stand inside of yourself and remind yourself of how much good work you've been putting out there. And when they can notice and can smell that your self-esteem has been bruised or your self-esteem is sort of lacking because of whatever they said, guess what? They'll bring you down and they will beat you with experience, because that's where they play at. So the idea here is just to get your mind thinking about every positive moment in your work life. And once you're in that position, nobody can tell you otherwise. And why is that? Why is it important that you put yourself in a position where you look at all the successes that you have actually done? It's because the brain works in a weird fashion, all right? It's just a lump of flesh and gray matter, so they say, but it's also a particular cocktail of chemicals, all right? It's like if this, then that. If these two chemicals are combined, you get this result. It's binary, okay? If you mix yellow and green, you get blue, or whatever color you get from the rainbow. So such is the brain, okay? And don't go looking up what colors you can mix, because then, I just thought of that while I was working, but you get the drift, okay? Now your brain is looking at colors, and I want you to focus on the color orange. Orange. And if you look around now, all you can see is the color orange, okay? And now let me tell you something. You see, when you get into a funk, you're simply adding a splash of, a bad memory, or your brain is just picking that particular incident based on something that has happened in the past, okay? It's not necessarily if somebody would have been faced with that particular situation, they would also feel that same way, okay? So if your memory makes you smile, that means you will physically smile. You know what I mean? It just works like that. If your memory makes you sad, or if you have a sad memory pertaining to maybe a word that you just heard, or some feelings that you have around a particular person or whatever it is, you physically reflect that feeling. So you want to put yourself in a position to bring about memories that make you smile, and you can physically smile. And when you physically smile, the chemicals in your brains don't even know if what you're seeing or what you're doing is real. It just works like that. And so that act of smiling also just adjusts your chemical cocktail. And before you know it, you're already in the happiest of moods. So even if you're feeling on top of the world right now, you may want to think about maybe those positive moments from the past and make a mental list of them. Or whenever you're feeling good, try and make a mental note of what is happening. What can you see, so that you can bring yourself back to that position at any given moment. So now you have within your hands, a cocktail of ingredients that you need at hand, things that can trigger, satisfaction or happiness within you. I always look at the back of my hand and I remind myself of a statement that says there's no two fingers on the same hand that are of the same height. Immediately, no matter where I am, no matter if I'm comparing myself to somebody, no matter if I'm in society or somebody's not understanding what I'm trying to say, I immediately just look at the back of my hand and I just burst out laughing. You know why? That person is going through stuff and they're not as tall or as short as I am, so they might not be seeing things from the vantage point that I'm looking at. And automatically, all these things of empathy start coming into my head, and I can never get mad at anyone. The reason why people get mad is because we just get focused and fixated on what's happening in front of us. We don't give our brains an opportunity to have a really good memory of something that could just snap you out of, whatever you're going through there at that particular moment. So you want to keep a bank of things that you can use ready at hand just to handle, just to help you handle, some of the bad days that might be coming through, because you can't do well if you're not feeling well. So, maybe you have to be talking to a couple of clients and somebody has made you mad the whole day. The person that you're speaking to doesn't care and doesn't even want to know what's going on with you. They just care about what it is that you can help them do. So sometimes you just have to push yourself. And maybe in my case, sometimes drag yourself kicking and screaming to do something. When I heard the customer complaining, I was like, oh, what have we done? I would have, if I was somebody else, I would have jumped on and started, maybe chastising or yelling at my account manager who's handling their account. But no, I didn't. So I looked at the things that were happening around me. What have we done? Okay, what is it that we have actually done? And I ended up being proud of what I created. So maybe you want to motivate yourself to maybe write or put yourself in a podcast or record a video, anything that you want to do. I'm guilty. I haven't written anything in a while. And I want to, use this segment of this podcast. It's 20 minutes into this episode. And I'm actually writing a book, all right, that has 12 chapters. And I think I've just maybe written 6 chapters of that. And I haven't written in a very, very long time. I mean, it's probably about a few months. Yes, I know I've had maybe blog posts and, I'm always on the podcast, and some of them are usually maybe 95% done, but the book is still there. It's rearing its head on me, and I still haven't got the motivation to, start doing it. It's because sometimes I feel like I'm an imposter. Sometimes I feel like, who am I to be the person who's documenting all these things about marketing? And when I started looking at the results that we got for this client today, I was like, hell yeah, I'm the one. Why shouldn't people be hearing from me? Because no one is experiencing what I'm experiencing right now or can interpret it in the way that I'm interpreting it. So don't ask me why, because my guess is as good as yours. Why haven't I been writing? Why haven't I been putting stuff out there? And don't get me wrong, I've tried. But it has not worked out. I've just not had the confidence to think that I'm the right kind of person who could be writing a book. Even though I've got ebooks, even though I've got all this content going out there, but the book is just, I'm just not motivated to write one. And I've sit down at the computer, began typing, and 30 minutes later, my words resulted in absolute nothing. I can just sit here and start talking about something and we already have an episode. Look at this. We're 21 minutes into talking about motivation and just about a cocktail of information that could actually help you immediately. So, I also am human. But last week, even if, I began complaining like a 5-year-old, I've got a 3-year-old in here, And I decided to spare you all and not share half of the things that I have been thinking of putting in the book. I just hadn't gotten the motivation. I'm human too. That's what happens when you're running a business. I haven't had the desire to maybe dump my brain or things of that nature, which is absolutely fried at this moment. I really want to put the book out and create something great. But I haven't made a conscious effort to change that until today, until I saw the work that we're doing for this client, until I saw the change that I can make in people's lives, until I saw how powerful, the movement that we're creating, the online prosperity experience, until I'm looking at you nodding your head right now and agreeing, with me that yes, what I'm doing is meaningful. The work that I'm doing matters. So I started writing the book. All right. And I'm not going to give up this time. I've just been sitting here and forcing myself to write it. So what I've realized is don't wait until motivation hits you. All right. When you have a complete and utter lack of motivation, you absolutely 100% cannot just sit there and wait for motivation to hit you, because if you wait for it to happen, your brain is just going to peak on whatever it feels right at that moment, and it might not be the thing that you want. Maybe eventually you'll somehow get a wave of motivation and do whatever it is that you set your mind to, but the odds of that happening by themselves are slim. That's why you need to find something that you can snap yourself out of it. Had I let that occurrence with that client, affected my whole day, guess what? I would have lost the client. I would have lost the date, the day, and I wouldn't have had content for the episode today. So instead, you have to go out there and force yourself to do something. Force yourself to smile. Force yourself to remember of all the good things that you have done Even if it means just taking baby steps for you to get there. Just take my lack of motivation to write my book as an example. How much time have I wasted not doing anything, and only to be reminded today of how good the work that we're doing out there matters. So, let me tell you something. Typically, when I do an episode like this, I just sit down and I start talking, and half of the time without even knowing what I'm going to say. And then after countless times of maybe trying this and maybe, figuring out what I say, I then find my stride. That's why you notice that maybe the first 10 minutes of an episode are like, where is he going with this? See, it's just baby steps. Just put yourself in a position that whatever you're going to do is going to succeed. And then you start having the confidence within yourself that you too can be, do, and have a happier existence. And at the end of the day, just one thing that you also should do, don't forget to take time to celebrate the little wins. Right now, if you look at yourself, you're well dressed, all right? If you're a girl, you probably have jewelry, you probably have earrings. If you're a guy, you probably have a watch, cufflinks, a belt. All of those are accessories that complement your outfit. Every little success that you're going to be receiving along the journey, you should call it a successory. A successory, because not one success is going to be the monumental win at the end of it all. That's why success is not an overnight endeavor. I mean, yes, you need to keep looking towards the ultimate goal, but you also need to celebrate those little wins, those little accomplishments, because each little accomplishment, each little successory helps you reach the larger goal. I always talk about how, even just one hand by itself is not going to be able to help you be, do, and have a happier existence. You need both hands. You need all the 5 fingers. So what other things have you been doing for your clients that have gone unnoticed, that you haven't written a case study for, that you're not putting in your book, that you're not putting in your podcast, that you're not putting out there for other people to help you celebrate what it is that you're achieving? After all, I didn't start by making a big list of potential podcast ideas. Like I said, I just snitch on the people that I talk to every single day, and voila, we have content. I mean, we wouldn't be here right now, would we? If I had to sit down and really, categorize what I'm going to be talking about and things of that nature. I just start using this as a vehicle to document my journey. I just tell you what happened to me in the morning, where I got an email from a client who was almost looking for a fight with me, and I didn't give them one. I actually gave them positivity, and now I've won loyalty with them. And I just thought, wait a minute, what if I could help other people be, do, and have a business that's profitable and enjoyable? Nobody talks about things like this. This little thing is my own little successory that I'm passing on to you. So it's always important to celebrate your accomplishments along the way. But it's also especially important when you're finding, maybe when you're finding it difficult to stay motivated. So it's easy for you to talk down on yourself, but the trick here is to remind yourself of what you did and reaffirm your ability to do good work. So just think of all the projects that you've completed. And, look at a sample, an image or of the portfolio that you're creating. And I did that today by creating a case study on a client that would have walked away. So you might be thinking, why didn't I do this sooner? How am I supposed to reach my goal if it's going to be, taking this long? Look at all the steps that you have, overcome. Look at all the things that you can now do that used to take you hours and hours to do. All of those are little successories, personal victories that you're achieving along the way. I mean, what is difficult is always maybe giving yourself a pat in the back, especially when you need it the most. Just remind yourself that every goal, no matter how small you want to accomplish, it actually gets you closer to achieving the ultimate goal. It all just gets back to the idea of taking baby steps for wherever you're going, all right? And once you've done that, you look at this, man. Just stay motivated. Even when things are tough, right now we're going through market downturns. You know what you could possibly do is maybe reach out to somebody like me. And what would we do? We'll just maybe look at what you're actually doing right now. Your consulting, your training, your information, your expertise, and we can actually start creating diverse recurring revenue streams that will skyrocket your profitability and ensure that your business remains 100% bulletproof. Even during market downturns, or even if there's a global pandemic, or if we're told to lock down at any given moment. Why do we do that? Because I know you got this and everything else that you set your mind to. All right? So like I always say, reach out. Let's have a look at what you're doing. Let's create and, work hands-on to develop a strategic plan so we can deep dive and work through, first of all, your client clarity, your strategic messaging, and then maybe look at your consulting offers and actually really optimize your business model for success. That way you'll be able to notice every single successory that comes your way. And eventually we'll just help you market your business by setting up an engine that generates leads consistently for you so you can attract the ideal clients that you want to work with. Like I can't wait to see what you are going to be doing with this information, because half of the time we always look down on the things that we've done, or we let things that are happening in our lives just put us down just simply because we haven't actually taken the time to look at what we've actually done well and the successes that we have done that have put us in that position. All right. So sometimes just think back, at a moment when you did well. And the trick here is just to remind yourself of what you did and reaffirm your ability to do good work. I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au